in a park,
and Kirk has the line, "Everybody remember where we parked."
It's funny. It's really funny, and they're walking through San Francisco trying to figure out a plan, and Kirk walks out into traffic and almost gets hit by a car, and the guy stops. He's like, "Hey, what are you doing, you dumbass?" And Kirk kind of like processes it for a second, and then says, well, "Double dumbass on you," and like justifies it by saying like, "Oh, that's how these people talk. You have to talk like them so you don't stand out."
Right. It's common in the literature of the time.
Yeah. So they hatch
which will play out with Spock throughout the rest of the movie.
Yes.
As he attempts to mimic. He knows what whales are, but he still hasn't quite mastered it.
I like how to curse
in 20th century vernacular.
So they hatch a plan. Kirk and Spock are gonna find the whales. Scotty, McCoy, and Sulu are going to construct the tank.
Right, retrofit the bird of prey.
So they can bring the whales back.
Right.
And Uhura and Chekhov need to find a way to
power the dilithium crystals.
Yeah, because they're racing against the clock, because one, the Earth is going to be destroyed in the 23rd century or the 22nd century.
But they have a time machine, so they can.
And also the bird of prey won't be able to make it back regardless, and even then only had like a day's worth of
power left,
cloaking power.
Yeah.
So Kirk and Spock find the whales. And
they're like a whale, like Cetacean Conservatory Museum.
They're like some kind of like exhibit, like some kind of SeaWorld type thing.
Right, but it's only for whales.
Is it only for whales?
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's just...
Yeah, it's a special like...
It's a whale of a tale.
Let's see.
That should have been this fucking tagline.
Yeah, it's the Cetacean
Star Trek 4, A Voyage Home, A Whale of a Tale.
It's a museum dedicated to the study of whales. And so they have George and Gracie there.
And Kirk's trying to figure out how to get these from the homegirl from Jillian Taylor. And at one point you see someone's like oh, what's that guy doing in there? And it's Spock.
Well, what happens is she's like, they're speaking, but we have no idea what they're saying. And the old lady goes, maybe they're talking to that man. She turns around and there's Spock in his underwear, right?
Well, it's like, he's like...
He's taken off his resurrection robes.
And he's got like a badass like Daniel-san from the Karate Kid
headband on to cover his pointy ears because they've learned that the China excuse isn't going to fly in 20th century America.
People know what Chinese people look like in 1980. There's a ton of them here in San Francisco.
But that unfortunate incident in a rice picker just ain't going to fly anymore.
So she kind of kicks them out, but Spock tells him, he's like, oh, Gracie's pregnant. She's like, how the hell do you know that? And he's like, she told me. And so she kicks them out, but she kind of thinks that they know, something's up with them.
Right. Well, also her boss tells her they're going to have to release the whales.
Yeah.
So
right in the middle of, whaling season.
Yeah, because why not?
Sure.
Because she's got to race against the time, too. So I think that there's something there also in the back of her brain, maybe... Somehow there's a way out with these two kooky dudes. Have we already did we skip over the part where Spock knocks out the punk rocker?
Oh yeah, we skipped over that, but Kirk and Spock are on a bus and there's this punk rock guy who's listening to his ghetto blaster really loud, and everyone's annoyed by it, and Kirk asks him if he could turn it down. Or
he's like, could you turn it down, please?
And so he turns it up,
right.
Anarchy in the UK.
Right.
And then Spock nerve pitches him, and he passes out, and
hits the radio in such a way that it turns it off,
and everyone cheers him. This guy touches this man,
assaults him.
He appears to fall asleep immediately, and everyone doesn't think to be like, what the fuck just happened?
Fuck, yes.
They're just like, yeah, woo.
Mob mentality at its finest.
Oh yeah, someone I'm sure the first person who probably some sociopaths I don't give a fuck if that dude is dead. I'm fucking sick of hearing that song. I hate punk rock. He starts cheering. He's like, oh, I guess I should cheer too.
It's a bus full of that dude from Dark Knight on the boat who's like, they had their chance. Let's blow them up.
Yeah, exactly. For sure.
Also, they sell Kirk's eyeglasses that McCoy gave him in Wrath of Khan because they need money.
Yeah.
And there's also a cute bit where Kirk's passing out the money. He's like, don't splurge.
Yeah, don't spend it all in one place.
Like a grandpa passing it out to his grandkids.
Which, I mean, he only got $100.
But it's 86, so it's not... 100 goes a little further in 86 than it
Yeah,
goes
I guess you're right. I was gonna say because I mean, like
it's still not a lot
between the 7 of them. That's like $13 each.
Oh, that's true. I didn't even think about that.
Like $15.
Yeah, how did he manage to have enough? Like, I would assume he got $5.20. So like,
yeah. So and he doesn't know anything about money, so he's
it's true.
Or maybe he just like gave like 20,
here's a piece of money to you.
Yeah,
exactly. For you.
And so meanwhile, Scotty, McCoy, and Sula, they go to some like factory
that makes plastic or glass, right?
Like like glass, like that would make that would be able to make a tank,
right?
And they're like, hey, how about
transparent aluminum?
And then he's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, well, he's like, how thick would glass have to be to like for a tank this big? And
right.
the guy was like, it'd have to be like 6 inches thick. And Scotty's like, what if I told you that it could be like half an inch? And he's like, that's impossible. And
what if I told you to stop using polymers? And he's like, why the fuck would I do that?
Well, he's like, you still using polymers? And he's like, still. Like,
what else would I be using?
Yeah. And so he's like, oh, I can show you something. And it's like, where's your computer? And he takes him to it. And Scotty just sits in front of it and he goes, computer on, or something like that.
And he keeps talking to it and his voice gets higher.
And he's like, computer on. And then McCoy like hands him the mouse and he's like, oh, okay. Oh, all right, of course. And they start talking into it.
I watched that 3 times in a row. I couldn't get over it.
And then so finally, the guy from the time period, the guy who owns the factory and runs it or whatever, hits a button and is like, all right, this is how you turn it on or whatever. And so Scotty starts
23rd century typing, but he's hunting, pecking. He's doing it.
Yeah, he is.
Fingers.
Yeah, he's hunting and pecking, and but amazingly fast. And he produces a formula of some kind and shows it to the dude, and he's like, oh my god, this
changes everything.
But I mean, it'll take me a couple of years to actually make it or whatever. And Scotty is like, he asks,
he's
Bones.
Like, how much would this be worth to you? Or?
Yeah, and so that's how they get the tank, and
right.
And Bones is kind of like, I don't know, he's kind of playing fast and loose with
time travel rules.
And he's like, oh, how do we know he didn't invent that?
It's true.
And I'm like, oh,
that's
Scotty.
Just how they brush it off.
Like Scotty, even though he's just getting more and more portly,
he's still pretty sharp.
He's still got his sass. And Chekhov and Uhura find a aircraft carrier.
There's a Russian man wandering around at the end of the Cold War in San Francisco asking where they keep the nuclear vessels.
Do you know where we can find the nuclear vessels?
The first person they ask is a cop.
Yeah, the nuclear vessels. And so
of course they give the job to the Russian.
And so they find it, and it's a aircraft carrier, which is
the Enterprise.
Which is it's nuclear powered, and it's called the Enterprise. And so they sneak on, they get caught. And Chekhov is being interrogated, and there's one point where
they say like, "You're through, Mister," and he's like, "Oh, can I go?
Can I go then?" And the guy who's interrogating him turns to his homies or whatever, and one of them says, "I think he's a Ruski." He's like, "Well, no shit, he's a Ruski, but he's some kind of goddamn retard or something." Because they're kind of doing a who's on first type thing the entire time.
So charming.
And
Uhura escaped, right?
Yes.
She got away, but Chekhov jumped off the edge of a pier or something and landed on his head.
Yeah, bumped his noggin.
No, he hasn't done that yet. He'll do that in a minute because then he ends up in the hospital. So he's still cogent at this point.
Yeah, he ends up bumping his noggin and they take him to the hospital, and it's bad enough that he's likely to die.
Right.
With 21st century technology.
Right.
Or 20th century.
20th century.
21st, maybe not.
Maybe not.
But 20th, it's a goner.
Stone Age.
And so the crew have to infiltrate the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And Bones walks past this woman, And he's like, what's wrong with you? And she's like, I'm on dialysis. He's like, dialysis? And like waves this thing like over her, gives her like 3 pills. And then, and we see her later, but he ends up saving Chekhov's life using, his own technology.
Right. It's McCoy, Kirk, and they've got the doctor on their side now. Kirk somehow convinced her.
Yeah.
I guess because he's like, look, we can save the whales. Or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, we can take them somewhere where they'll be safe.
Right. I'm from the future.
And so they save Chekhov, but by this point, like, the jig is up and everyone's like, they kind of like have to force their way in and lock everyone out so they can do this.
When they force their way in, it's the lady doctor on the stretcher, and when they come out, Chekhov's on the stretcher, and the cop's like, you took a woman in there. He's like, one little mistake,
And so they're having to hightail it out of the hospital, and that same woman that Bones had like given the pills to earlier, was like, she's like, I'm cured. That man gave me 3 pills and I grew a new liver.
And the doctors are sort of like mumbling
grew a new kidney.
Yeah, grew a new kidney, and they're mumbling about like 0%, blah blah blah. Like they're quietly conferring and agreeing with this. Happy old timer is shouting at the top of her lungs.
Oh, she loves it. I mean,
well, wouldn't you? I mean, like, it's literally like they added an extra decade to her life, or at least not like immediate death. And she didn't even have to trick like John Locke into giving her a kidney.
What? I mean,
what are the ethics?
Well, no, I mean, like, you always hear like, oh, the main argument against time travel is that we haven't, encountered a time traveler yet.
Right.
Because obviously, like, if someone can travel through time, they would have been like, oh, hey, like, what's up, 1999? Like time travel is totally possible. Woo!
Check out this Blu-ray.
Limp Bizkit, you guys aren't going to be around forever, so save your money.
Don't team up with Napster. It's a bad move.
Bad move.
Metallica, don't go after Napster. It's going to damage your rep irreparably.
Irreparably. You guys are cool. Well, I guess by 99 they'd already done that. So he's like,
true.
Shit, 99.
Oh, fuck. I'll be back.
I'll see you guys
2 years ago.
But why couldn't they just like dip in and be like, here's all this like great technology, enjoy?
Well, I mean the moral argument against it is that we haven't earned the knowledge yet. It's sort of it's the prime directive, right? You don't interfere with a society that's not ready for these things. It's the same reason against trying to institute democracy in a country that has no precept of democracy. It's like that doesn't really usually go smoothly. They have to get there on their own. Bush administration not so big on the prime directive.
Apparently not.
But
I still that those pills that'll help people like.
You could save millions of
being
lives.
on dialysis sucks.
Well,
I'm told.
Right.
I'm not on that.
So it may be the
I'm the picture
of
health.
I'm an Adonis in my prime.
Pretty much.
Well, I think it's I read this story in science class once. This guy's on a beach, right, and he sees a baby turtle that's just hatched from its egg.
Lord of the Flies.
Yes, exactly.
And he shoves a rock onto it.
He's
a
like,
boulder.
Eat it, piggy.
The end.
That was the sequel.
Yeah.
The grown-up kid still on the island who didn't leave with the adults.
Like, no,
he was
great.
out in the jungle gathering coconuts, and he's like, what the fuck?
He comes back and he's like, got
food, bro.
I got coconut. Hey, where is everyone?
Oh,
is that a boat off in the distance?
Probably not. Everybody will be back any minute. Start making everybody's coconuts for him.
Coconuts for me. Coconuts for you.
No, so the guy, basically the baby turtle is crawling out of its egg down the beach. And a bird, because birds do this, I don't know if it's a seagull or what, swoops down to try and eat it, because that's what happens. And the guy jumps in front of the turtle and he's like, no, you shall not feast today. And so the bird flies off. And the turtle ends up being Hitler. That's right. And that turtle was Adolf Hitler. No, what happens then is the one turtle gets into the ocean, but because all of his brothers and sisters who were also waiting to cross think it's safe, suddenly they all rush out at once, and the birds just swarm down, and basically it's like turtle holocaust. So it is like Hitler. Kind of. Yes, exactly. But the point being, like, you don't know if you go back, you think you're doing something good, but your one act of kindness could fuck up everything. The problem is you don't know. It's the butterfly effect, right? So I think that's the main argument against it, but who cares? This